Nigeria's annual inflation rises to 22.22% in April 2023 from 22.04% in March. Central Bank of Nigeria intervenes in dispute by telecom companies and banks over 120 billion naira debt. Nigeria's Apex Bank launches Sabi Money to drive a financial inclusion. Plus, gold regains strength as oil prices steady as tight supplies compete with economic concerns. The program is Business Express on a network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Leah Katun Babatunde. You're welcome. It's the start of the week, and we begin by informing you that latest data shows that Nigeria's annual inflation increased to 22.22% in the month of April from 22.04% in the previous month as the price of food continues to rise. The National Bureau of Statistics and the data released this Monday show that food inflation, which accounts for the bulk of Nigeria's inflation basket, rose to 24.61% in April from 24.45% in March. The Bureau says the rise in food inflation on a year-on-year basis was caused by increases in prices of oil and fat, bread and cereals, fish, potatoes, yam, fruits, meat, vegetables and spirits. Inflation has remained elevated in the country, eroding savings and incomes and prompting the Central Bank of Nigeria to hike interest rates to their highest level in nearly 2 decades. And the Central Bank of Nigeria has expressed worry over skilled gaps in addressing financial inclusion in line with the Financial Inclusion Strategy 2022, which aimed to drag in the most excluded groups in the country. Governor of the CBN, Godwin Emefiele, at the rollout of the financial literacy e-learning platform tagged Sabi Money, said it will drive digital financial literacy in the country that will ultimately allow more Nigerians use the digital financial platforms available in the country. It is a homegrown solution for learning and research purposes as well.
Yeah, but what we're doing is that training people who will become trainers, who will take what they have learned on financial literacy to our weak and the vulnerable people and teach them about financial literacy, because we believe through this program we should be able to deepen financial inclusion, increase the percentage, and hopefully achieve the targets that we have set for ourselves.
Emefiele assured the regulator is making deliberate efforts to resolve the issues around the payment of USSD between the banks and the telcos.
We've been at this, I use the word tug of war between the banks and the mobile network operators about how to resolve the payment of USSD. But we've been at this for almost about 2-3 years. But I'm very certain that we are going to get to the end of it, because if we do not resolve the problem, the people who will suffer, like we say, when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffer. Those that will suffer when these kind of disagreements go on will be those who are the users of banking services.
Now, for many decades, Nigeria has attempted to come up with a sustainable development strategy for the economy. These include measures to address both economic and investment climate issues. Despite these accomplishments, Nigeria continues to attract low foreign direct investment. However, last week the federal government approved for implementation the first ever Nigerian investment policy with the aim of giving investors more comfort and attract more investment into the economy. The investment policy is our focus this afternoon on the program, and our guest in the studio is an investment promotion expert, Obunna Okuku. It is good to have you with us this time.
Thanks for having me here.
So to start, what is the key focus of this policy?
Pretty much, looking at the policy, you'll see that what the government tries to focus on is, investment facilitation, investment promotion, sustainable investment, and then again, one of the key things I noticed is that they try to influence the behavioral pattern of investors to be a bit more compliant, understanding the system where they are coming into to do business. So basically, I see the direction being what should happen. But be that as it may, I still think there's still a whole lot that needs to be done, because everything has to do with investment promotion, basically is beyond just a policy document that you come up with. There's so much that has to happen, because when we're looking at investment climate, because there are determinants to that drives investment. Now, if you look at, because you're just looking at the climate, the investment climate. So what happens to your openness to other markets around, apart from the primary market? What happens to other triggers? What happens to the cost of doing business in Nigeria? What happens to the infrastructure deficit? So those policies won't address those major issues that affect investors. So there's still a whole lot, and then what happens to one of the key things, which is the effectiveness of your IPA, that's investment promotion agency. So can your investment promotion agency handhold an investor through tables of where they can get approvals and then get their business started as soon as possible? Can they go to the subnationals to make sure that they get the approvals or the permits that they need, or the land, acquire the land that they need to set up their businesses? So these are the things that's beyond the policy. The practical thing that needs to be done are the things that we are looking at as an expert. These are the things that I will question when it comes to, if I x-ray the document, I'll say, okay, now you have come up with policies. What are the things, like I said, the effectiveness of your IPA? Does the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission have the capacity to make sure that, do they even have what it takes to make sure that you get approvals, you help investors through, you do the advocacy that an investor requires?
Okay, now we're in a transition mode, I would say, and of course we're having to deal with a lot of things. We're seeing rising debt, we're seeing rising inflation, we're seeing rising interest rates for starters. So if you would be looking at this picture from your point of view, where should the focus be? What are the sectors that should be the focus at this point?
Yeah, first is first. I think I always say this: investors are resource seeking, and because they are resource seeking, not just natural resources, they also human resources. So they need to see the human capital development within your system too. They are market seeking, and then see, there's this erroneous thing that happens most of the time. Everybody thinks that population is market. No, you can have a large population of people who don't have disposable income to be able to afford what you're about to bring out to the market. Number three, they look at there's some assets, there's some strategic assets within the system that they can buy into. I give a very simple example. The guys that came from Indonesia to buy over Element Petrochemical some years ago, the company, now they've turned it around, and Element Petrochemical, the company itself, they are worth over $15 billion today, and all that happened here in Nigeria. So what the major denominator is actually the efficiency within your system. I say this because I always use a case study when I'm teaching investment promotion in a class. I say very simple analogy here. Now, without any investment policy in Singapore, And you see, they always come second or first when it comes to ease of doing business. Now, there's a small island called Juron Island, which is the hub for petrochemicals and refineries in the world as we speak today. Now, they have, it sits on, it's just a small 3,000 hectare land with an investment of over $35 billion on petrochemicals and refineries alone. Now, because of that, before I forget, with a turnover of over $90 billion. And now, this is the irony. There is no single hydrocarbon close to where that infrastructure is. The closest is a 600-kilometer pipeline from Indonesia to Singapore. So the whole world is going there because there's efficiency in their system. Because everybody knows, if I'm going to Singapore to do business, I am sure that I can be handheld and things will work. It's plug and play. So it's not where your truck is moving from one end to another, and then one local government people stops you on the road, and then you must buy sticker. Those are the things that we should look at. Those are the things that bother investors. So for me, the direction we should go is our ability to make that agency, Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, more efficient, have the right people, run it, then give them enough power to be able to handhold investors. The advocacy is it, because everybody wants to be able to see investment or investors that they're like water. They flow to areas of least resistance. So if they see you allow them, people can dupe them. They know that that when they're walking around the system, somebody's asking them to pass one envelope before things are done. There are countries where these things are not allowed. So for you to play at that global space where the world chases, there are over $100 billion daily looking for where to go to, and we have natural resources which we need to create. That's why I say everything is all about efficiency. So if you have an efficient system, investment will flow
please,
to you.
I will need you to just give me an understanding. What is Singapore doing differently?
What Singapore is doing differently is you can't come into Singapore and want to do business and then you can't. It's not a plug and play. Everything is plug and play. If there's a plug and play approach when it comes to Singapore, like I said, what they did was just like what we have in, let's say, they designed like an Ibaka deep sea. Let me use Ibaka for example. Now, if you come into Ibaka, if it's well structured, all you need to do is come with your portfolio, and then you come in, and then you can start doing business the next day, and everything is all worked out. You have your power in place, you have the road infrastructure, everything all already structured. So the efficiency, that's what I'm saying. That's what they're doing is you can't interface with a human being. Most things are even more structured in such a way that you don't have to deal with one governor. There is a governor in Nigeria, I think it was two administrations ago, in Nigeria, that didn't sign the CFO. Do you know what that simply means? That means nobody would have been able to do business for the 8 years that he was a governor in that state, in Nigeria. So, I mean, these are the kind of things, like I said, these are the advocacy, these are the investor support services that should be provided if given the powers, the appropriate powers that Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission should have. If powers are given to them, they'll be able to do their job and do their job efficiently.
Okay, so what do you think policymakers should do differently? Should we be looking to promote outward direct investments or to focus on promoting exports?
Now, let me say that in a class, if I'm teaching investment promotion, I always tell people that trade is like when you want to date a girl, and investment is like you want to marry. So it's like marriage. So if you promote investment, what you are promoting is that you are bringing someone over to stay with you. Now, if you want to promote trade, it's all about an exchange, commodity and legal tender, and that we ends there. So if you want to promote export, yes, these things work hand in hand. I said it earlier, which comes back to the efficiency in the system. Let me use Dangote Refinery, for example. If you don't have an evacuation system in place around that Dangote Refinery, you're going to have a gridlock that is worse than what's happening at Papa today. Because where would the trucks go out from? There has to be a coastal way. There has to be a waterway infrastructure designed to evacuate whatever it is that's going to come out from that refinery. So, okay, let me give you a very simple example. It is easier for goods to move from China to Benin Republic than goods moving from Macmillan bus stop on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to Benin Republic. So these are the things. Why? Because you have bad infrastructure, our port system, our border system, how many people you have to interface with. So all these things, there has to be a single window system where if you want to export, some people, one of the things that is, militating against, exports in Nigeria is our port system. There has to be, it comes back to the same word, which I said, which is a major denominator. Efficiency in your system. If it's not there, so the policymakers should focus on creating efficiency within our system, where there will be a confluence between what the federal government is saying and what the subnationals are doing. They need to understand that investors don't have time. There's what we call a cross-cultural aspect when it comes to investment promotion. Now I'm speaking as an expert now. Now, the way investors reason is what we need to understand. You can't be telling an investor that you want to create jobs. They're not interested in you creating jobs. They are not interested in making money. So all you have to do is strategically think of how to position yourself where you will create the job while the person is making his or her money. So that's how these things work. So it looks very ordinary, but if you are not an expert, you are not an expert, and which is the problem we have been having day in, day out.
So while we're talking about hand-holding the investors, and you also pointed out that there's the issue of the barrage of tax forces or whatever crossing from one local government, one state to the other, what sort of synergy should we be seeing from between the federal and the state governors?
The first is first. There has to be a conversation. The new administration should have a conversation with all the subnationals. First, we have to have a program. We have to have a robust plan when it comes to dealing with investors. We need to understand the sensitivity of investors, knowing that one, they don't have time to waste. Because their monies have to work. So they can't sit down and wait for you to get one approval. No, nobody has that kind of time. So if I have, the consciousness and the character of a person with $1 billion is different from the person who has 100,000 naira. So you need to understand that there's a psychology around having funds and having huge funds, and then being able to convince their financial institutions from where they are coming from to come in and do business in your terrain. So if you don't have that understanding, it makes it difficult for you to know that a sitting governor I'm using the subnationals because most investments are domiciled in the state. That's why my focus is always most of the time the subnationals, because no investment hangs in the air. They are all in the subnationals. So the governors, the president needs to sit down with the governors to make them understand that for us to attract investment, you need to be more approachable. You need to have that. There has to be an investment promotion desk in every governor's office where you see that whoever heads the office, you must see that person every day, because you collect allocation, so you don't understand what they are doing. These people have earned money, they've worked hard, so they don't see things the way you see things. So there has to be that confluence in reasoning so that ecosystem will work and function effectively.
Okay, I must sincerely thank you, Ogbonna, for always sharing your insights with us, and thank you. Do have a nice one.
All right, thank you for having me.
So we move on. Oil prices were steady this Monday as bullish sentiment about tightening supplies from OPEC plus cuts and a U.S. resumption in U.S. buying for reserves competed with concerns about fuel demand in the top global oil consumers, the United States and China. Brent crude futures rose 15 cents to $74.32 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was at $70.24 a barrel, up 21 cents. Last week, both benchmarks fell for a fourth consecutive week, the longest streak of weekly declines since September 2022, over concerns the United States could enter a recession amid risk of a historic default at the beginning of June. Analysts say with the uneven reopening in China and concerns that the U.S. is facing a growth slowdown topped off by a rally in the U.S. dollar, market sentiment stores crude oil will remain lukewarm at best. And gold regained its footing on Monday after 3 straight sessions of losses as the dollar eased and investors remained wary of the U.S. debt-ceiling standoff that could increase worries of a global economic slowdown. Let's see how much other commodities are trading in the global market. The stock market dipped by 0.48% to close last week on a negative note. And Moplan Dakok has a summary of market activities. Okay, I'm told that particular video is not ready, so we move on to the closing figures for this particular Monday, when the market opened, and of course it gained marginally, to see the all-share index rise to 52,231.29 points. Deals after the session were 6,033. Volume of trade also peaked at 626 million, while value capped at 5.599 billion naira. Equity capitalization also ended the session at 28.44 trillion naira. And those are the figures as at this time that the market closed in Nigeria. Let's move over to the global scene with Nneka Oko.
Markets were mixed on Monday as investors in the region focused on the result of Turkey's presidential election. The DAX in Germany was up 0.19% in early trade, with UK's FTSE gaining 0.44% and the French CAC also topping 0.48%. Asia-Pacific markets were mostly higher, even as 2 out of 3 major U.S. indices recorded a second straight week of losses, fueled by concern over the U.S. debt ceiling and disappointing economic data. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index led gains in the region and climbed 1.75%. The Shanghai Composite advanced 1.17%, and Japan's Nikkei 225 was up 0.81% to end the day at 29,626.34. In the U.S., stock futures climbed in early deals as investors hoped Democrats and Republicans would reach a debt ceiling deal. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 117 points, S&P 500 futures climbed 0.36%, and Nasdaq 100 futures advanced 0.26%. It was mixed trading for African markets this Monday as Sudan conflict enters second month. In South Africa, the JSE Africa 40 rose 0.26% in early trade, with the tone index in Tunisia and Ghana's GSE Composite making marginal gains, while Namibia's overall index and Kenya's Nairobi all-share were in negative territory.
Of course, appreciated marginally last week as Nigerians count down to the transition. But of course, that is at the official window. Let's see the numbers. That wraps Business Express for now. Remember to send in your comments, observations, and suggestions. Also be informed that all previous episodes of Business Express are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. Business Express returns Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. Do have a wonderful evening. God bless Nigeria and have a fulfilling week ahead.